to start buying new parts for my PC because I built this PC in 2019 and like just on its last leg, man. GPU, CPU, it's all outdated. So I got to start spending some money to upgrade that shit, you know?
Yeah. But one
It's about
step at a
time.
time. It's
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Well, before we get into this, we're gonna do a live unboxing
Oh
because
wow.
Anthony
Oh
sent
shit.
me something and I have not opened it yet. So
Damn.
let's do a live unboxing real quick.
That's funny you saved it for this. So all right, here we go. So
All
what
right,
do you
so what's
see?
first? So we got a t-shirt here. Oh, my morning jacket t-shirt. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah,
This
right?
thing is fire.
Yeah, that's
Holy
a
shit.
certified Alabama thrift store find right there.
Really?
Yeah, it's sick as fuck too, and I wish it fit me, but it's just a little too tight in the shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
What
So
size is it?
it's a large, but
Just been hitting
I
the
think it's
gym
just
too hard, bro?
well, dude, I'm a fluctuator, man. But like that type of shirt, I know it's gonna shrink. So like I wear it once and shrink, and it becomes a tank top real quick.
All right, then we got one more. Let's see. Alex Garland's Sunshine, which is interesting because we're gonna be having a conversation about this shortly.
Oh yeah, yep.
What is this? Is it
That's the
the
screenplay.
it's the screenplay?
Yeah, it's sick. Well, we'll save it. Just put it on the side for now. We'll
Yeah,
save it.
yeah.
We'll
All
get
right,
back.
all right. Is there anything else in here I'm missing? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So you got a painted vinyl. Yeah.
Very
Mm-hmm.
nice. And you made this?
Yep. Yep. Dude, so my
Very
vinyl,
sick.
the vinyl that I've been painting has been really resonating with a lot of people. So it's been super fucking fun to do. Uh
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I like it a lot.
That's your sunshine piece right
I
there.
was about to say it's got sunshine vibes,
Oh
which
yeah.
which we'll discuss more. I got a lot to say about that. So
Oh yeah.
fuck
Beautiful.
yeah, this is tight. Thank you, brother. I love
Sure.
it.
For sure. You're welcome. You're welcome. So
Um,
before we go down Sunshine Road, let's go take a trip to Mad City, shall we?
yeah, yeah, let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome or welcome back. Totally biased music. It's Blake and Anthony. So today we're discussing one Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. So Apple Music intro. A few days after releasing 2012's Good Kid, Mad City, the then 25-year-old Kendrick deemed his sophomore album classic worthy. He wasn't lying. Lamar's sophomore album is one of the defining hip hop records of the 21st century. On the surface, Good Kid, Mad City is a hood tragedy, with Lamar painting a vivid picture of black and brown youths growing up in underserved communities. But the album is also powered by faith and hope, with Lamar chronicling his turbulent coming of age through a cast of compelling characters that portray the drama, familial guidance, and relationships that led to his inevitable ascent. So this is a classic album. A lot of people consider it his first album. It was his first major record debut or major label debut. So a lot of people consider it his first. So I've listened to this album a number of times. I'm a huge fan of it, obviously, and I think it's great. I think it's a snapshot of life for Kendrick when he was young, when he was coming up, and I think it's really one of the defining hip hop albums of the early 2010s. But what did you think? Had you listened to it all the way through before? Is this your first time? What's the deal?
So definitely my first time listening to this album all the way through. As I was I listened to it twice, and I was coming out of it with a lot of questions as far as like, what is Kendrick Lamar's actual background? Did he? I'm definitely recognize he experienced a lot of this stuff, but I was curious as to his age. So Kendrick is 36, so this is a little before my time, a little before your time. But it is an interesting tell on you know his life experience, or at least some moments in his life that definitely stuck out. But very interesting listen. I definitely have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm not familiar with Kendrick that much at all. So for you to say, so this is his second album produced, but a lot of people kind of feel
Yeah,
it's the first like step coming out party for him,
yeah.
really.
So his first album was Section 80, and then this was when he was signed to Interscope. So this was his first major record label album. So I think a lot of people consider it his first. I don't know. I could go either way on it. I've always
Right.
considered it his first.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But yeah, so interesting pick. I mean, I had a feeling it was going to be hip hop, but I'm interested to
You know
dig
how
into
it is.
Yeah, I'm seeing the trends, but
Yeah.
But no, I'm interested. I'm going to leave it at that for right now because I think there's points in this album that made me think. There's points that made me shake my head a lot. There were points that made me dig deeper because some stuff it was kind of it took me a second listen to really grasp what was being said in this sense. I
Yeah,
It's interesting with music. I think whether it's progressive bands like Radiohead or even this type of album, from Kendrick, it's like you can listen to it one time through without any context, without any lyrics in front of you, and you have this kind of sense of feeling for an album or for a piece of music. And this one, my feelings changed. I won't say big time, but they definitely changed for the better with a second listen with lyrics in front of me. I
yeah,
dug into the concept of like, okay, this is Mad City being about Compton, Good Kid kind of Kendrick in Compton, that kind of feel, and then that really put this album into context for me.
yeah,
Because other than this, my only experience with Kendrick was at Bonnaroo, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But
yeah.
but yeah, so interesting. Let's dive right into it.
Yeah, so look, I have an interesting relationship with Kendrick Lamar. I think Trey thinks that I want to be a Kendrick Lamar hater. I definitely don't. I think his first two albums are certified classics. I think they're phenomenal. I think Damn and Mr. Morale, they don't appeal to me the way they apparently appeal to other people. But these albums, especially Good Kid, Mad City, has such a high replay value for me. And we talked about this a long time ago when we did Ready to Die, but I really like hip hop music that explores kind of a rapper's upbringing and their life and kind of puts you into their shoes and shows you what they went through. And that's really what this album is, right? It's about him growing up in Compton and the things that he had to deal with within that city, and gang violence and things of that nature that we'll get into with my favorite songs. But I think it's well regarded as one of his, if not his best albums, still all this time later. And Kendrick's a phenomenal artist. And look, I've seen him a number of times, and I've hated almost every show I've seen from him. I've seen one good Kendrick show, and I've seen him 5 times, so that's a little disappointing to me. But I think he's found his rhythm, because this last Bonnaroo set 2023 was great, man. And I went in like I tried to go in unbiased. I tried to put my former experiences aside and just go in with an open mind. And he performs, man. And it's great to watch people like Kendrick and J. Cole on such a big stage in front of so many people. Cause like I remember afterwards just being like, dude, we watched like a master at his craft. Like he just did so well, performed so well, and played so many great songs. And you forget how many hits he has and how many good songs he has until you see him live and he's just rolling through them. And it's the same reason, like, I'm not a fucking Drake fan by any stretch of the word, but I really want to see him because the guy just, like, from what I've seen, he puts on a great show and he's just a hit maker, man. And it would just be cool to kind of see him do his thing. But yeah, I mean, I really like this album. It's interesting that you kind of went in with no context and then came back to it afterwards and followed the lyrics. And I think the lyrics are really, really important in this album, and it's nice to read along. And I read along for a lot of songs and caught things that I hadn't caught before, and I've been listening to this album for years. So yeah, it was definitely a ride. I'm glad that did you do you think you enjoyed it? Did you like the album as a whole?
I'll say this. The first time I listened to it, I did not like it. I was very like there in the midst of a listen for me, there can be a lot of distracting elements. I've talked about it a lot in the past, whether it's looping vocals or auto tune esque, like just voice manipulation that can really get on my nerves. And there's some parts in this album that did that to me. And without context of the album, I was like so just taken aback of like what is he doing, like what is Kendrick doing, what is he saying, like where is the point behind this, right? I get talking about money and talking about women and talking about drugs, talking about alcohol, talking about violence, I get those themes, but like show me the picture, and that's where like I had to take a step back and say, all right, now dig, now see
Right.
what is this all about, right? And it really did change my perspective. Like I said, I don't replay value for this album for me is not super high because I mean I didn't move with the music. I kind of am diving in like what is it 13 years later, right? Or 12 years later. So it never resonated with me on a personal level. And like I said, my relationship
On a
with Kendrick, my
personal level.
relationship with current hip hop is very detached. Yeah, is very detached. So like
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on just the current state of hip hop. Whenever it makes sense in this conversation to talk about that, but yeah, I got more out of a second listen. So I mean, it speaks. I think that rings true with a lot of artists. You know, we talked Tool in the past, where like there's learning curves to understanding the musicianship of these artists, right, and how they put out music. And like I said, coming from a completely outsider perspective, on first listen, I was like, why would I ever listen to it again? But on second listen, I was like, all right, I get where he's going, I mean, the production behind this album is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't have any gripes with that at all. Like I said, some of the music, some of the arrangements of the songs, I could see like throwing me off. You know, there's a lot of skits within songs. You know,
Yeah.
particularly at the back end of songs, where I'm like, it's an interesting decision to do that, because all you have to do is cut the song. There's your skit leading into the next song, and it's the same flow. You just don't have to listen to a voicemail at the end of a song,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
but I get it, and there was some humor within it too. But I'm not mad at listening to this at all. You know, I'm not M.A.A.D.
Yeah.
either. But but like I said, I get it, and there were a lot of things that was gonna recognize. You know, Bass Sector samples a lot of songs from this album,
Right.
um, which I had in my iTunes library for different reasons, but I've never listened to the originals. You know, or at least never listened to them in this context. So
Yeah.
so
No, and
uh,
it's
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 all right.
interesting when you talk about context. Like one of the best examples of it is swimming pools.
Right.
The song, like that song, people have said, on a surface level, it seems like a song about partying, right, and getting drunk and turning up and shit. But really, it's a song about
It's
like
like
the
alcoholism.
psychological connection, yeah, between peer pressure and alcoholism, and kind of what that does to people and how they feel this social pressure to drink. And I think that, like, if you don't explore the context, if you don't listen to the lyrics or you don't read through them, you don't really get that. But I like, to me, I really like the skits at the end of the songs because it makes you like, to me it feels like he's taking you into his world, right? Like before he goes into, one of my favorite moments of the album is um when he's going into Backseat Freestyle, which is like a classic song on this album. And the song before it ends, and one of them says, "Yo, I got a pack of blacks and a beat CD. Get your freestyles ready."
Right.
And then it
Right.
goes into Backseat Freestyle. Like, I just think it's cool that he's kind of taking you into his world. But I get how, like, the very first song, Shireen, aka Master Splinter's daughter, ends with like a 1.5 minute voicemail
Yeah.
from his parents, where his
Uh-huh.
dad's talking about, getting his
Get my
dominoes and
dominoes.
shit. Yeah. So, but no, man, I think, like, in the current state of hip hop has changed a lot, and there's not these albums like Ready to Die or Good Kid, Mad City, where you kind of explore an artist's life and upbringing and early childhood, is always really interesting. And I don't feel like we get them enough anymore. There's not, and it's a lot of rappers like debut albums, right? Like this, you could
Right.
consider this his debut album, and Ready to Die was Biggie's debut album. And same thing with 50 Cent with Get Rich or Die Trying. There's a lot of similar themes there as well. And so I think that, I don't know how many more artists are going to make albums like this, especially when they've been in the limelight for so long. It kind of
Right.
loses its appeal, but this is a good intro to Kendrick Lamar and his life, and it really showcases his ability to write music and his ability to rap. Like, he raps hard as fuck, like
Yeah.
Backseat Freestyle or Mad City. Like, he's spitting crazy on some of these songs, and so it's nice to listen to. But let's get into top three songs. What do you got for your top three?
All right, so like I mentioned, first run through, I was like, nothing truly sticks out to me as far as like something that I want to hear again or dive deeper into, just from like a personal standpoint. But second listen, there's a 3 song lineup. Probably have one or two of yours in here, but from Good Kid to Swimming Pool, Good Kid, Mad City, and Swimming Pools. Those 3 songs are the ones that I felt stuck out to me in a way that, like, there wasn't enough uh there wasn't, I call it alien voice. There wasn't enough alien voice. There
Yeah.
wasn't enough voicemails, and there wasn't enough like repetitive lyrics to take me out of the song. Like after Swimming Pools, honestly, I could turn off the album and be content with that, even though obviously it's 3 tracks shorter. But those 3 songs in particular really, in my mind, they stick out the most for me. Drake, Poetic Justice, I like, how Kendrick,
Interesting.
is rapping in that song, but Drake, I do not fuck with Drake. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe he doesn't have street cred in my
He
mind,
doesn't at all. He
I
has
know.
none.
And like, I've not seen him live, so I can't say that that's what makes him, what it is. 'Cause I just don't know I don't know what it's about, right?
Yeah,
But for some reason, Drake just throws me off, like, from a professional standpoint. I don't know what it is about Drake. I don't know why people like Drake,
that's
but
fair.
but I mean, Mad City, that's an interesting track because it's like 2 tracks in one.
Yeah.
The beginning part, I don't fuck with the yak yak. Like, that's the experience that I had. That's what stuck out to me from that 2015 Bonnaroo set. Was it felt like that was happening nonstop and I couldn't escape it. And we were all there. Like, there was a big crew of us there, I feel like, but
Yeah.
and there was a shitload of people there too. So I'm, in my mind at that set, I'm thinking, all right, Kendrick is the face, or a face, of hip hop right now. And that was 2015. And I think it's still true now that he's a face of hip hop. You mentioned last week there was a big 3. Who would be considered the
Cole,
big 3?
Drake, and Kendrick.
So J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar,
Yeah.
right? So like at that point, I'm realizing, okay, a bunch of people fuck with Kendrick, or at least like they're here to see the show, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I left that show not impressed, and personally just kind of just annoyed, right? Again, like that, when hip hop shows have, there's been only a few hip hop shows that I've been to that I've left very satisfied.
Right.
Wiz is one that satisfies me from an artist standpoint in a live show. Even Killer Mike, as far as Run the Jewels go, that was a fun ass show. Like, I can remember that in Miami sticking out in my mind. But again, Kendrick, maybe I just don't get it, and I'm perfectly fine admitting that. But those tracks stuck out. I like how Mad City cuts off in the second part, where it feels like an NWA kind of vibe. It's
Yeah.
Compton in the track form. I really like that. And the story of Kendrick smoking a cocaine laced blunt for the first time, that is something that will impact you for the rest of your life. Like, I have no
Yeah.
doubt that you ingest something not knowing what it is and have an experience like that. It can, I mean, he says, I think in the song, like, you wonder why I don't smoke anymore. Like, it's
Yeah.
fucking, you grow up with that shit happening, around you constantly. It can fuck with you big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have no doubt that it did. But let's see, Good Kid, I wrote around that track. There's some very synthy guitar bass at the end. That's kind of very. I love the instrumentation throughout this album. I would coin this as a jazzy hip hop album.
Yeah.
Would you agree
No,
with
I
that?
agree. Yeah, for sure.
It's like there's no lane it's trying to stay in. It really goes all over the place musically, but in a way that I think it fits really well. So again, the production of this album, I'm not arguing with at all. Um, let's see, swimming pools, track about alcoholism. I mean, like I said, it's very interesting. I like the idea of, what is the line, fill up a swimming pool or fill it up with liquor and dive in, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get down with it. Imagery there, it's really interesting. But so those 3 tracks, just right in sequence, really, I could get down with those.
Yeah. No, that's fair for sure. Um, so for me, the first one I had is um The Art of Peer Pressure. I love this song. So I mean, you don't have to spell it out for anybody, right? It's right in the title, but
Right.
it's a whole story about his friends pressuring him to basically stage a robbery.
Mm-hmm.
And there's it's a really interesting, like, it's a great storytelling song. Like, he takes you on this journey of them going to basically commit a robbery. And I love the end of the second verse. He says, "I never was a gangbanger. I mean, I never was a stranger to the funk neither. I really doubt it. Russia, brother, quick, and then we laugh about it. That's ironic because I've never been violent until I'm with the homies." And he
Right. Yeah.
uses that throughout the song, like,
So
until I'm
with
with
the
the
homies.
homies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I really like the end when they're basically there, and he's like, one of his friends is like, "Hey, jackpot, like pop the safe," and somebody's like, "Yo, there's somebody in this room," and he's like, "What?" And he goes, "There's somebody in this room," and then it goes into Kendrick saying, "I hit the back window in search of any Nintendo DVDs, plasma screen, TVs in the trunk. We made a right, then we made a left, made a right, then another left, and we just circling life." And in the very end, you hear the police sirens because he says.
Right.
I should have told, talking about his mom, he said, I should have told her I'm about to catch my first offense with the homies. And then it goes to the police sirens. And then he says, but then we made a right, then made a left, and made a right, then another right, one lucky night with the homies. It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
I just love that. It's such a great storytelling song. So I really love The Art of Peer Pressure.
It
And
has
the
that.
second,
The intro is very vintage too.
yeah,
It's one of the one tracks on here that has that kind of rustic static vinyl sound.
yeah, no, it is really cool. And then second one, Good Kid. Um, like it's just Good Kid is one of these songs where he's just talking about his life and talking about what he's seen and dealt with. And the very last verse, he says, all I see in this room, 20 zanies and shrooms, grown up candy for pain. Can we live in a sane society? It's entirely stressful upon my brain. You hired me as a victim. I quietly hope for change. When violence is the rhythm inspired me to obtain the silence in this room with 20 zanies and shrooms. Some grown up candy. I lost it. I feel it's nothing to lose. The street's sure to release the worst side of my beast. Don't mind, because now you ever in debt to a good kid, Mad City. And I just think like that song, man, it's so good. It's a powerful song. It's really like telling an important story to him and the things he had seen and his upbringing. And it's sad. Like it's a hard song to listen to if you're really paying attention to it. But I think it's poignant. It's important to the theme of the album, and I just really really like it.
Yeah.
And then the last one, my favorite song on the album is Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. 12-minute song. And it's a long one, man, but it's an interesting song, interesting dynamic for it. There's a lot in this. I really like the at the first verse when he's like, and if I die before your album drop, I hope, and then you hear gunshots go off. Like there's just a lot I like, but if you go to Genius, the Genius annotation is Kendrick Lamar's two parts, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, depicts life in an urban ghetto. From beginning to end, Lamar breaks down the stories that pulled him away from gang culture while also speaking on the spiritual rebirth that provided him with an escape from the streets. And then it says each part of the song is produced by different producers. The first half was done by Shy Hutch and Soundwave. They sampled Grant Green's 1971 record, Maybe Tomorrow, and lifted the drums from 1972's Use Me by Bill Withers. The second half was made by Like and Pac Div, who sampled the vocal break from My Romance by the Singers Unlimited. Kendrick split the music video into two parts for each half of the song, with Sing About Me premiering in December 2013, and then I'm Dying of Thirst debuting in January of 2014. So I like it. Like it really is two songs in one, and it's a long one. It's a journey, but it's a great song. I love the instrumentation and I love the production. Like the lyrics are really special. So I know it's probably one of the least played songs on the album. I can probably look. I don't know if it shows on Spotify, but it's definitely it's the longest song on the album, so it's tough for people to get through, which I understand. But I really really like it. So
It's interesting, like I mean that would make at least a couple tracks. You could almost argue the first track being split into two tracks because the voicemail itself is almost as long as that beginning part, and there's a prayer at the beginning too, right?
right,
So like it's interesting arrangement wise, like from like putting together this album to say, all right, we're gonna keep it. Is it 12 tracks? I think just from the
yeah,
regular, not deluxe version. So like 12 tracks, but in reality, that could be Sing About Me could be two. Number One could be two tracks. Mad City could be two tracks potentially. I mean, I just find it really interesting to keep them together.
right,
I wish I could know what he's thinking to think why keep it together. I just feel like that would be an interesting point of conversation
yeah,
versus splitting them up. Because, I mean, hip hop traditionally has had shorter tracks, right? Maybe like 3 minutes max ish tracks, right? Good for radio play. But yeah, to have something that long and so introspective and have like two sides of it, I find really interesting.
yeah. No, for sure. All right, so what do you got for bottom tracks? I'm interested to hear this.
Well, so let's see. All right. So, like I said, alien voice is something that really throws me off. I don't know why he does it. Does he do that live? I've not paid attention to it, but does his voice change live
A
within the
little
show?
bit.
A little
Yeah, a
bit.
little bit.
I just don't get it. I don't know why he wouldn't just have his own voice. Now there is in I'll say this in swimming pools, right? I think he even verbalizes it by saying like this is your subconscious speaking to
Yeah.
you or something, right? So like, okay, I get that. And if that's the angle, if the alien voice is Kendrick's, subconscious, then okay. Then now I have to look back and think of the other songs and say, okay, is that what's really happening, or is he just doing his thing? I don't know. Um, there was one song I'm trying to look at my notes and decipher which one it was, but there's one song where Kendrick goes into angry mode. Like I feel like he's doing his Slim Shady impression. It's Backseat Freestyle. I just wrote genuinely angry rap from Kendrick. But it felt like he was almost doing an Eminem caricature
Yeah, when he's doing
there.
the beat, no, no,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
But that's not in my bottom track. So I'll get my bottom tracks. I have Real as number one. It's just too. I'm real. I'm real. It's just.
yeah,
I was out. I was like, that's the song that I wanted it. I wanted to get out. I wanted to click abort on that one. Um, Second bottom track, I have "Sing About Me." You
Oh,
know,
come
and
on,
it's
Anthony.
just and it's really because of that vocal loop. I wish they would sing about me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I
It's
just did
that's
not.
just a very surface level
It
interpretation,
really
Anthony. I'm
it is.
disappointed.
It is. But I'm just saying what distracts me, right? And like
Yeah.
repetitive auto tune ish alien voice on a loop that will send me for the door. But like I said, I stuck around because I wanted to hear that Dre track too, of course. But uh, like I said, little things like that can throw me off, and if that's how I'm gonna pick bottom tracks, then that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'll put for number three just all the voicemails. I just wanted there to be, I wanted there to be more like structure to tying in these voicemails because some of it, like the skits. I'm just gonna call them skits in tracks, but like some are voicemails, some are car conversations, and I get the segues because it works. I think his dad at the end of the first voicemail is like, "Bitch, don't bring the oldies back. Don't kill my vibe." And then it goes
Yeah.
right into the track, and I love that, right? But again, to get that, you got to go through the whole Shireen track. So it's just maybe I'll just say the bottom track would just be the choice of putting those at the ends of songs versus them being their own. I think if they work on their own too, but that's just me nitpicking, right?
Yeah, interesting.
So
I really like this is the one I'm where I really, really like it. I don't know why. It just like it paints like he does such a good job of painting a picture on this album. Like you feel like you're with them in the car or you're like listening to the voicemails, and so I really like it. But I get it. I get it, you
but,
know?
I mean, it definitely I think it definitely does his, whatever his journey justice. I think you can come out of this album saying, all right, I know a little bit about what Kendrick is about, right? But to highlight something you brought up in the past, right, about my heart band Dredge being this Christian rock esque um, band, right? I mean, this one is laced with religion from a conversion standpoint. So like, I want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, when you bring up religion in an aspect of art, right? This one, it puts it on the front and at the end of this entire album. So like, what are your thoughts on that? Does that change anything? Do you highlight that, or is it just a piece of the Kendrick puzzle?
I think it's just a piece of the puzzle, right? Like religion is very I think like every rapper talks about religion to a pretty high extent, right? Like it's not a one off with Kendrick. And, I think for him, his faith and his religion kind of helped him form who he was and escape the situation that he was in. And to me, like, a lot of I think black culture is very religious, and that's part of hip hop music, right? Like as much as I say that I've always believed hip hop music is for everybody and it's not black music. I get why people say that, right? It is black culture. It's important in black culture, and it's part of their art, and you can't discredit that. And I think a lot of them are religious, and a lot of the rappers are religious, and so it's going to find its way into this music. But to me, like, the thing about Dredge is it sounded like a Christian rock band, whereas Kendrick
Like a
didn't doesn't
support
sound
pumping.
doesn't sound like a Christian rock band. Like, there are religious themes, but it's not, the music isn't really, like, to me, it's not influencing the art. You know, it doesn't sound like that to me.
Well,
Whereas
like,
Dredge, on the other hand, I can't really say that
well, I
for.
mean, I don't know how that point is being made because I mean, it's literally you're praying. Like this is literally a prayer of accepting Jesus into your heart, right? And then repenting for your sins and things like that. It's like it's a part of this album, and I think it's a part of Kendrick, and I get that. But I was just curious. I had to
But
bring
like
that
the
point
religion
back
thing
up.
for me, like the repenting for the sins, right? Like throughout the album, he's talking about what the shitty things he has done, like because he's been placed in a situation. So it's almost like I view it as like his religion is a way to, and as it is for a lot of people, for better or for worse, it is a way for them to cope with their own atrocities, right? Their own mistakes that they have made. And I think that's a shortcoming of religion. I think people use it as a cop out, and I guess you could kind of say that's what he's doing. But I think the theme of it is, I'm at peace with my God, so my mistakes I've repented for those, and I've moved on from my life, and that's kind of how I take it. Now, whether I agree with that, whether I think it makes you a better person or makes you whole or atones for your sins, I don't really agree. But I'm not a religious person, so there's probably religious people that do agree with that, and
Yeah,
it is what it is. But I think it's an interesting theme to have on
right.
there.
Would you say this is his most personal piece?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
for
so
sure.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Um,
All right,
so
so
my bottom tracks, I had Poetic Justice. This is just a fucking this is such a radio song, man. And it's so funny looking back now because these two dudes hate each other. They're in the midst of a beef right now. Like they're
and the
clearly
track's
not
called Poetic Justice. So
yeah, like they're clearly not close, have never been close. It's such a funny pairing that just doesn't work at all. And like I don't like the song at all. Um and then like I don't like Compton either. Compton is very like, look, all respect to Dre. And I love the beat. Like, if I'm riding 75 degrees, sunny, windows down, throw this song on, great vibe. But it is very campy, as Trey would say. It is very like, just kind of, again, it feels like a radio song that they threw at the end. Like, it doesn't feel like it fits with the tone of the rest of the album at all. It's
mhm.
very strange to me.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's a line where like Dre says something like he's carrying Dre beats with him. There's
yeah.
something I'm like, why?
Yeah.
That's like
I had to
so
plug his
ridiculous.
product.
Yeah, plus like those Dre beats were like put into every musician's hand like forcefully to say, "Here's your copy,
Yeah.
go and show them off." It's just such a marketing thing that like this was just that was a weird line that I'm like, you're better than that. You're better.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then this one was tough for me. I wouldn't say it's a bottom track simply because I've heard it so many fucking times, but Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe.
Yeah.
Dude, when this album came out, holy shit, that song got ran into the ground. And it is a great song, but like I've just heard it so many times. I actually like the remix better. I think it's on disc 2, the Black Hippie remix. Or no, who is it?
On
I
the
don't know. There's a few remixes of it, but there's a better remix out there of "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe" that I enjoy more. But yeah, just I've heard it too many times.
Yeah, exactly. Alien
One of those
voice, right?
things. You
I
know
was
what's
like,
funny? Somebody tweeted they were talking about they're like the way that Kendrick fans are gonna gas up whatever response he has for Drake is gonna be sickening. Oh, bro, did you hear how he switched from the alien voice to the baby voice? Like,
yeah, exactly.
and then so
Like,
true to Kendrick fans, dude. Like he can do no wrong whatsoever.
well, like I wonder too. Like, so this album's from 2012, and like, so I'm in college. You're graduating, right? So, and it's like, what do people have to latch onto from a hip hop standpoint in that time period? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
can you think of? I mean, what was Eminem doing at that time? Like these
So
guys were kind
Eminem,
of taking
so
steps back, right?
yeah, so Recovery came out in 2010, and then the Marshall Mathers LP2 came out in 2013.
So
And
there's a
then
gap, yeah.
Cole and Drake dropped around that time. But this was definitely, I would say, the
Wayne's
purveying
not doing a
album.
lot, yeah.
No, so um Yeah, I mean, looking at it, like Cruel Summer came out, which was the Good Music like collab album. But really it was like Good Kid, Mad City, and then I mean there was other music dropping, but it wasn't like
So it's like the perfect storm, for Kendrick to like blow the fuck up, right?
yeah,
And I wonder if he had you know, that sensation of like, okay, now I have this mass mob of fans, right? I can't obviously can't imagine being in that position, but like, what do you do next, right? I mean, like, it's
right.
it's an interesting kind of situation because this album, kind of like Cuddy's story is similar, right? His first album's super super personal, and like that blew him up, and then it's like, okay, now what do you do? Now everyone's trying to latch onto you, or everyone's trying to get a piece of you, or have you like included in some other projects, right? But
Yeah.
like I said, I can't know what it's like, but it can't be easy.
No,
Oh,
no way.
yeah.
So album review wise, hang on, I want to see if I can find um the record sales for it somewhere. Title and packaging, marketing and sales. Okay. So released in 2012. Obviously, Kendrick went on a number of like festival runs after that. In the album's first week of release, it debuted at number 2 on Billboard 200 and sold 242,000 copies in the United States. The album also peaked in the top 10 of the album sales charts in Canada, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. In the second week, it sold 63,000 copies and 176,000 more copies over the next 4 weeks, bringing the total sales to 481,000. By April 2018, it had sold 1.7 million copies and it was certified triple platinum. Um, so yeah, obviously did huge numbers. Um, Rolling Stone gave it a 4 out of 5. Pitchfork gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
I
They
should have
said,
guessed. I'm gonna start doing this. Like,
"Yeah,
I want you
I
to
should
like
have let you
not,
guess."
yeah, because I'm dialing in on Pitchfork's radar now as far as like what they want to push, what they want to support, and what they just do not understand.
They
So,
said Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City is fearless and brilliant, an unvarnished and nuanced peek into the rapper's inner life that ties straightforward rap thrills directly to its narrative. And then Rolling Stone, here's a good guess for you. Top
okay,
500 albums of all time. Where do you think it landed for Rolling Stone?
jeez. You're asking the wrong person because I want to say like 1,000 but so all right. Well, I'm just gonna go middle of the road. I'll just say 250.
It was 115.
Shit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a difficult I think thing to categorize because again, there's so much music that resonates with me that people these publishers probably have never even put their ears on yet.
Yeah.
That I think stands head and shoulders above, you know, Taylor Swift's album blank,
Yeah.
But but
That's fair.
either way, I get it. They're a publication, so you gotta support the
Yeah.
readers too. But
So what do you rate it?
so I'm gonna give it a solid 7, even 7 out of 10. Like I said, production is beautiful. I love the music behind the words that are happening. There's a lot of guitars. There's a lot of jazzy drums. That feels really good to me. The things that throw me off are just those things I've mentioned already. Little things that I can nitpick and say they bother me or make me not want to continue listening into it. But sticking around, diving deeper, it started to make sense more, and I get it. And I think, like I said, the album's very clean, so I think it resonates with a lot of people who have maybe experienced some of the things he's talking about, or have at least known folks who have gone through it. So it probably means a lot more to a lot of other people than me.
Yeah.
But I'll give it an even 7.
That's fair. I'm gonna give it a. Hmm.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, it's tough.
But,
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think it's a great album. It's I've listened to it a shit ton, and I always find myself coming back to it. My relationship with Kendrick is very different than others' relationships with Kendrick. But this album and To Pimp a Butterfly, always will always enjoy them. And if honestly, you should listen to Pimp a Butterfly and then go
yeah.
back and listen to that episode that we did. It was early on. We brought Chad on, who's a
Oh yeah.
big fan of Kendrick. But I'd be interested to hear your take on it because it's less it's a departure from himself and more about kind of what the political climate was like around the time that it came out, which was 2015, or
Interesting.
it was 2015 or 2016, and so it was obviously very tumultuous at that point. So it's a good album, man. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people, it's very people either fucking love it or people really hate it. So I'd be interested to hear your take on it. But
All right.
yeah, so that was Good Kid, Mad City, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into rides or dies. What do you got, Anthony?
All right, so my ride or die. There's a lot of directions I was thinking about going with this, but I was like, let's give Blake something digestible, something he probably hasn't heard. Lotus is a band that is in this kind of jam scene. They show up at festivals and all. They recently had a member of their band pass away tragically, but they are still going to be performing this song from one of their more recent albums, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think the album's called Free Swim. This track is called Turtlehead. It, I think, sticks out in the album, but it's it has a decent vibe to it. So I think it was tolerable for Mr. Blake. What'd you think?
So I've seen Lotus a number of times,
There you
and
go.
I used to listen to them on occasion. There's I don't know if you know this, but back a while back when I was really in the music festival scene, the jam scene, the Lotus and STS9 fans kind of had a little beef with each other, which
I
I
can
always
see.
found strange because they make similar types of music, so it's kind of like who's going to be the headiest of them all, who's going to
Right.
win the heady competition. But no, I liked the track. It's good. I like. Here's the thing. It's with recorded jam band music, it's always like hit or miss because I just want the live versions, right? I want
Right.
to hear how they switch it up and drag it out and do whatever with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a good listen. It's a rides for me, and I like Lotus. I always liked STS9 more. If I got to pick one of the one in this beef, I'm
You
going to
don't
be Team
have to.
STS9.
That's the
I
ridiculous
have
thing.
to. I have to pick one, Anthony. They've told me that the masses have spoken. I have to pick a side, so I'm picking STS9.
Wow.
You know, but yeah, rides for sure.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Bring it out. What you
All
got?
right, so I had rock and roll. This is Pusha T, Kid Cudi, and Kanye. And look, Pusha and Cudi are on tour together right now, so they're close. They've made some tracks together. When I first listened to this, so I listened to a lot of Pusha T like 2 years ago. I think he was like my third most played artist on Spotify that year, and I love Pusha. His music is not for the faint of heart. He is not the most easily digestible rapper. He's very hard, very intense. But this song, when I first listened to it, I hated it because I hated like what they were doing to Cudi's vocals in this song. But upon re-listening, like I really, really like it. I love Push's verses. I love Cudi's like second hook where he adds on top of it and kind of sings more, and he goes really well with the beat. And then I really like Kanye's verse. Like it's presumably about Kim, but the
Right.
line where he says, "How'd I make it through the shy, get to you, and almost die?" Like I love that song, or I love that lyric in that song. So yeah, the whole album, "It's Almost Dry" is really great, but I like this song a lot. What'd you think?
What do you think about the 1+1+1+1+1+1 equals 2? What do you think
Mm.
about that math?
I think I mean, hey, it's all about interpretation,
That
it's
was
all
just
about interpretation.
that's the one thing that it's that high pitch. You call it baby voice. I guess that might be accurate for this track. I mean, here's the thing. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say the track dies, but there are
Oh
parts I
my
like. Right
god.
now, it's funny because I like how Cuddy comes across. Cuddy has that dark synth voice that I think blends with a lot of music very well. But Kanye sounds different. What's up with him in this track? Is that just a
I mean, that's
manipulation
kind
of
of
the
just
voice?
how I don't know if it's a manipulation of his voice. He sounds like that sometimes, like when he's kind of
Yeah,
doing like he's not really rapping, it's almost singing, I would
right.
say. Like it's kind of a
Yeah,
combination of the two, but I think he's just in his feels, bro. I think he's just in his feelings.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, I like Pusha T as well. I'm not as versed into him. I mean, that was kind of caught the early part of Pusha as I was kind of fading out, or I should say fading into other directions musically. But yeah, the the high pitched voice and the 1+1+1+1 equals 2. Like that doesn't. I know it doesn't add up, but it's just something I had to pull out and put in your face. So
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so we got to talk about Sunshine. So
all
intro
right.
Sunshine for the people.
All right, so we talked Garland a lot last week. I hope y'all checked out that bonus episode, or if you haven't yet and you've seen Civil War, go see the bonus episode. But Blake mentioned, that Alex is a director, and I was like, man, that's so far from the truth. He's such a writer and such a prolific writer. And I wanted to throw this movie at you because it's a collaboration, right? Alex Garland, Danny Boyle, they've done The Beach, they did 28 Days Later, and I think this one is such a powerful space film. You know, I know that space is something that resonates with you, and it resonates with me as well. And this movie, I never got to see it in theaters. I would wholeheartedly pray that it gets re-released in some fashion in theaters, because I can only imagine going to see this film in a dark theater, and it's so visually impactful and so bright, and the light in this film, it's so multifaceted. You know, this film. So you got the screenplay now, and I encourage you, now that you've seen the film, to dig into that screenplay and see some of the writing that's in there, because you know this film, it can be about a lot of things, but in the preface on in the screenplay, in the intro that's written by Garland, he says, you know, this film is about atheism, or about your concept of what a higher power could be, or the lack of, because we are so small in this universe that we're in. And I think it's so, our will to survive is so strong too, right? But this film is about a space mission that is you're approaching a dying sun. The sun is dying, and their goal is to drop a bomb into the sun to kind of restart our star. And I think it's beautifully done. I think there's a lot of you know, nods to space films like 2001, to Alien, to Solaris. There's a lot of of these mecha space films that you're never going to top, but I think this one is fairly close in a sense where it has a powerful visual to it. It has a lot of introspective elements to it, and this is Cillian Murphy's first Bond movie. So that was another thing I wanted to bring out too, was to show that like Oppenheimer wasn't his first go around with a massive bomb, but
Yeah.
this one is I fucking love it, man. So what'd you think? I'm
So
over.
I definitely got Alien vibes, like in the very beginning when they're all sitting around the table talking. I was like, man, this
Yeah.
is very reminiscent of Alien for me.
Mhm.
So I liked it. I will say this, and here's the thing: I watched it in a dark room. Like I watched it up, like
Yeah.
it was dark, but there are points in this movie where I could not see what the fuck was going on. Like I couldn't. It was like confusing the shit out of me. Like the one scene in particular when they go out to fix the panels, there's a lot of like camera changes and the scene is very dark, and like I could not follow like what was happening. It was very jarring for me. Like I couldn't, and there were a couple scenes like, and I know like towards the end when the captain of the first Icarus is
Yeah.
on there, like
Hmm.
that visual distortion is like intentional, right? Like you don't
Right.
ever really get a good look at him,
He's
and I
fried.
knew,
Well,
yeah,
that's
and I
the thing.
knew,
Hmm.
and like I knew that that was intentional, but like the scenes where I knew it wasn't intentional, I had kind of had the same thought of like I wish I was watching this in a theater because I might be able to see, like if it were big enough screen, if it were dark enough, like I'd be able to see it. So that was like that was annoying to me, but I don't chalk that up to the movie. I chalk it up to like I should have seen it in theaters, like if I would have been able to. But I thought like the story was really cool. I love space movies, and I thought that visually there's some beautiful visual moments, like all the times where like they're looking at the sun or whatever is the simulation of the sun when they're in that one room,
Yeah.
and
No,
he's telling him,
it's like an observation deck,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and like that stuff, that scene is really beautiful. But I my biggest gripe with the movie is when they do the ejection from the one Icarus to the other, because it's so ridiculous and so far out of the realm of possibility that they survived that I was like, all right, man, like we couldn't have found like a more plausible way to make this happen, because that scene was just really ridiculous to me. Other than that, though, like I love that really the villain in the third act is like it's not an alien of any sort. It's clearly a human that believes what he's doing is just and believes that he's been speaking to a higher power that has told him like, no, it's time to let this earth go. And I think
Right.
that's a powerful message. So I mean I liked the movie a lot, and I think like, so did he write and direct 28 Days Later, or did he only write
So
28
he
Days
only
Later?
wrote it. So Danny Boyle directed it. So he wrote 28 Days Later and this and The Beach.
Okay.
So yeah,
And I
so
still haven't seen 28 Days Later because you can't fucking find it on anything, which really pisses me off.
uh,
Like, you can't find it on any streaming site anywhere. So I still haven't watched it. I would really like to, but I think like
yeah,
it does showcase his ability to be a writer. It's interesting that he says it's about atheism, and I can definitely see where he's coming from with that. The themes are really cool, and like I said, visually it's a beautiful movie, and there's some really intense moments that I like a lot. And overall, very good. I thought the ending was kind of confusing to me. Like I don't know. I don't understand how, like, does he die? Does Killian Murphy die at the end? Like, it's like the sun comes into the room, but he's standing right in front of it. Nothing's happening. So that kind of confused me a little bit. Like, I didn't really know what was going on there.
yeah.
Um,
There's an interesting, and it's in the intro for that screenplay, which Garland, he kind of explicitly says he did not want this movie to have a happy ending. He wanted it to kind of be this, fallout kind of feeling, right? But him and Danny Boyle had conflicts on that, right? So they kind of wanted to leave the ending semi ambiguous, right? To say, from a viewer standpoint, it was a successful mission if the sun was, a little bit
yeah,
brighter, 8 seconds later or whatever, right? But it's not explicitly said, and I think that feeling of okay, kind of what did happen. I wish it could have been a little bit clearer, right? But I think the climax of the film is just Killian Murphy doing it, right, in the act of it, just
yeah,
being immersed in the sun. Because I mean, to see the sun explode, or like how are you going to translate that? It's already this crazy massive thing, right?
yeah,
But but I get that. I get that kind of melancholy feeling of like, what is to happen. But you know, the experience that I wish I could have had, similar to you, like seeing this in a theater in the dark and then walking out into the sunlight. I think that experience is worth it just to have it. If you
yeah,
ever see a movie in the daytime and you walk out of the theater and it's like blinding ass light,
yeah,
and I think that this movie does that in a sense where there are dark scenes, and I think those dark scenes may be. This is me trying to make sense or hope that this is the case, but I think when you have dark scenes contrasted with the blinding light that this film does show you, um, it makes it that much more impactful. And I think that throughout the film, some of the characters are, obviously the previous captain, and then there's a guy from the current crew who is just obsessed with staring into the sun. It's like
yeah,
it's a narcotic in itself, right? It's a blissful feeling that like can't get over. And notice that guy who is constantly on the observation deck. He is so fucking tan. Everyone else
yeah,
is like pale white, but he is like so tan and dark
yeah,
skinned that he has just been camping out on that deck. Um, and there's some other interesting things that I really like. The subliminal when they enter Icarus One, and there's these like subliminal shots of the crew from a
yeah.
like from a photograph that and the comparison that we're all kind of dust. We all turned to dust. We all came from dust.
Right.
We all dust, and there's just constant particles in the air. Um, I don't know. It's a really interesting movie, and when you think about space movies, I want to get your opinion on just some of your favorite space movies, and maybe throw some more out there. But from a space movie, it's hard not to have comparisons to 2001 with a talking, computer operating
Right.
system. It's hard not to have that really slow intro that is like an Alien also, where there's not a lot going on, a lot of kind of scene setting and things like that. But I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it does kind of make you think different things. And from a score standpoint, the score is beautiful. And Underworld is the duo who helped with the score, and they did that track Res, the track Bass Sector
Yeah.
remix. That's their track, and I think what they did with this movie is really powerful, and they collaborated with John Murphy, so they would do it like a portion of a track and then throw it to an actual composer and have him kind of do some things with it too. And I think that translated really well.
Yeah. No, and I think like in terms of space movies, I mean, Alien is always going to be my favorite. Always, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And then 2001 I like, I went and saw it when they re-released it in theaters.
Yeah,
So that was a cool experience, and that movie is super ominous, but to me that movie doesn't like it doesn't feel as much like a space movie. I think because I don't know, so much of it takes place inside. It's more about like the human dynamic with the
right.
computer than it is kind of about space. But 2001 is great. Spaceman, dude,
Yeah,
Spaceman. I fucking
I'm
love
so
that
glad you like
movie.
so
And
glad you like
like, I will ride for Spaceman. I don't care what the fucking
Fuck yeah.
critics say. I don't care what the audiences say. Spaceman's a great movie. And if you disagree, you miss the point, and that's not on me. So that's up there as well. But I love the theme. I love an outer space theme like that
Have you
provides a
seen
really.
go ahead, no,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, no,
You
no,
go.
you're good.
So, I was gonna mention, have you seen Ad Astra? It's kind of a more
No, I have
recent
not. I have
space
not.
movie.
I've seen like
Yeah,
trailers for it, but I didn't actually watch it.
yeah. I enjoyed it. I mean, it has an interesting theme to it that may or may not turn people off or turn people on. But I enjoyed it for what it was. And like
Yeah.
that's the thing. These space movies, they're limited because they're literally in a vacuum, right? So there's only so many elements that can enter or be a part of that film. But
Right.
any space film that can get you thinking, Interstellar is another one. I know you've seen that. That's an interesting kind of take too, where it's like there's a space and Earth kind of hybrid storyline going. Um,
Yeah.
but um, but yeah, those are interesting. Solaris is one that I have not seen, and that there's been a remake of it, but there's an original. Andrei Tarkovsky is the director. That's one. Maybe I don't know. I might watch it sooner than I would say we'd bring it to the podcast, but that's one that I would recommend seeing just because of the notoriety of it. It's got to be
Yeah.
something worthwhile.
Yeah. No, for sure, but good movie. Good movie
Yeah,
for sure. Good pick. And I will say I was impressed with Alex Garland's writing. So
there you go.
he's
There you go.
he's kind of back in my good graces a little more
Beautiful. And
now.
then Danny Boyle, though, as far as from a directing standpoint, he did 127 hours. The James Franco
Yeah.
hiking movie where he cuts his arm. He did 28 Days Later, which if you can't find that, then I'll get it to you some fashion. I might mail you a CD with it on there or something,
Yeah.
something to get past the government. And
Yeah.
then Train Spotting is crazy. The first one and the second one, it's a heroine kind of tale of this crew of guys in the UK somewhere. And then Trance. I got a star by Trance. Trance is a movie no one's ever told me about, but I watched it one day because I was just going into Danny Boyle, and it's wild. So it's a sci-fi movie, but worth watching too, no doubt.
Nice. Hell yeah.
So
So what do you got for the album next week?
all right, so album next week. It is a self-titled album by the band, two-part band, L1011. So it's your 2004. If you're going snowboarding next week,
No, the snow's pretty the season's over,
it's
dude.
over. Oh
Season's
shit,
fucking over,
thought it was
yeah.
year round over there.
Yeah,
Okay,
which
well, it's good cruising music. It's good movement music. So you'll find a vibe to it. You listen to the first track and you're like, all right, this is that. All right, you got an idea. So I think you'll enjoy it. But yeah, L1011, um, self-titled album.
nice.
We'll do that. And what are we gonna
Um
watch?
So for the movie, we're gonna watch Challengers, which
All
is in
right.
theaters right now. So my girl Zendaya, the
Oh hell
most
yeah.
stunning woman on the planet, arguably. Mad crush on Zendaya, and that's definitely what's bringing me to the movie. But I'm also a huge tennis nerd, so it's like the perfect
Yeah.
combination for me. Like Zendaya and tennis, I'm fucking there. And it's
Yeah.
filmed in IMAX, so another reason to go see an IMAX
I
movie.
think
So
there's a lot of hype around this movie. I mean, I
yeah,
don't know. I know it's about tennis, and that's literally it. But I'm glad you brought it up. So I was debating on going to see it or not. I got an AMC Movie Pass, which is worth doing.
yeah,
But yeah. So all right, Challengers, it is.
hell
Let's
yeah.
do it. Beautiful.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed. We'll see you guys next week. Anthony, always fun.
Do it. Yes, sir.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.